Hey, thanks for tuning in. We are LivingFit, your trainer's trainer. We not only have education courses for trainers to upgrade their game, but we have full on follow along programs, workouts, exercise breakdowns, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for you to reach your fitness goals. Now, enjoy the show.
What is going on, guys? Hey, it's Master Coach Aaron Guyette, the education director here at Living.fit. LivingFit certified here. I'm with my great friend, and an incredible, okay, so let's break down Ethon Burns for a second here. I got to give him a decent introduction. And I'm sure I'm not going to do him justice, because there's far more that I don't know, but every single thing that I find out is just pretty incredible. So number one, he is an IQ genius. He literally took an IQ test, got 0 questions wrong. And he was like, yeah, it's just patterns, just patterns over and over again. If you can see in his background, when it shows him or whatever, you will see that he has this incredibly large drum set. We can only see a little fraction of it. He has been I guess, professional drummer, however, toured and all of these things with a few bands over the time. He is well studied, well read when it comes to kinesiology, physiology, and just everything, programming and science in the fitness realm. He owns a gym called Alchemy Strength. He is a loving husband. He is a loving father to another daughter on the way. This man is a Renaissance man, if there ever was one. And it's sort of a double-edged sword for him. He, because he is so well tuned with so many different things, he is constantly wanting to be able to provide the highest value in all of these different realms. So we get the great pleasure of talking with him today and talking specifically about living fit and talking about education and talking about his gym and talking about programming. So without further ado, Ethon Burns. So I got a quick question. So you just wrote an article about training. If we all trained like we were 40, even when we were 20 stupid years old, how much better we would be. Very interesting take. And then I read the article and I was like, this is genius. Genius again. So tell me, how did that come about? Or where did that come from?
Well, first off, thank you for the awesome introduction. I'll do my best to live up to that. So the article was actually, it's an idea that I've been talking about for years and years now. Just the fact that, more, it's still going on, which is even funnier, right? So 20 years ago, warm-ups were non-existent. We were all getting our information from magazines and, from, the gym bros down the street or, whatever. And the internet really wasn't that big of a thing. We couldn't access information like we can now. And so people just didn't know, but now we know and we still do it. Right. So it's like, okay. And so I've been kind of promoting that for a couple of years now that, if we were to actually train like we were 40 when we're 20, then by the time we got to 40, we wouldn't be broken and busted like a lot of people are now.
Yeah.
It's just something I kind of threw offhanded at one point, and somebody said, "Oh, that's a really interesting concept." And I was like, "Oh, maybe that is an interesting concept." And it's just kind of expanded over the last couple of years. I'm just now getting to the point where, I actually feel like writing about it is something that people would be interested in, mainly because of the fact that I keep seeing a lot of social media tags and a lot of clickbait over, training over 40 and why it's so different and why it's so special. And I don't see it as different or special. It's like, everybody should be training like this. Why aren't we all training? So that's where it came from.
So then that allows us to kind of hop back and talk about sort of something that I think has just been just part of your genetic makeup maybe. But it's this love of patterns, but also this really high cognition or ability to observe patterns, which I think has helped you in the fitness realm for sure. And in programming, absolutely. But where do you think that came from? When did you first notice that?
Man, that's a great question. I don't know if I ever really noticed it specifically in anything. I do know that, when I started playing music when I was young, whatever that was, third grade or fourth grade or whenever school band started, music kind of came easy because it was just patterns, right? It didn't matter what instrument I was playing, which I chose drums by the time it was all said and done, starting with trumpet and moving on, so on and so forth. But everything was just kind of these weird patterns. And I noticed that I could, if I knew the pattern for this instrument, then this instrument was the same, and everything kind of made shapes, right? So even if you're looking at written music, it kind of makes shapes, and the shapes were way easier to think about than actual trying to read notes, right? So maybe that's where it started. I don't know, something like that. But patterns are so much easier for me to recognize that way, right? If I can take a big step back, look at the shape of it, and be like, okay, here we go. There's the pattern. And I feel like exercise in particular is very much like that, especially if you look at anybody's programming. There are patterns that happen. If you can take a big enough look back, right, over a week or over a month, or whatever that program looks like, you can start to see the patterns, and you're like, okay, well, here's the shape of this pattern. Is that what does that look like, and how does that operate, right? Yeah. And so then you start breaking it apart.
Yeah. So what's always been sort of comedic relief in hearing you talk about it for me is you talk about it like it's just normal, like everybody, like. You don't see that, but I'm not saying that you are abnormal, but I am saying that I think that you have an incredible gift that most people don't have, right? And most people, I don't think, are able to see it as quickly and as easily. I think that we can learn it. I think that we can understand it. And I think that it absolutely will help, in developing good programming or playing good music or whatever the case might be. But it's apparent to me that, one, you're super humble about it, and two, I don't even know. It's like you have this like incredible jewel, like you have the ring, the one ring to rule them all. But you're like, yeah, but it's just a ring. I mean, it's not that big a deal, right? And so, when did you, or are you still struggling to see any sort of dissonance or the fact that the way you're seeing stuff that's just happening so easily to you is not the way that other people tend to maybe see or experience things?
So yeah, that's super tricky. My wife, she's a well-educated woman. She's a sociology professor. We've had many discussions over this because, to me, I look at different things, especially like with exercise and things like this. And I'm just thinking, well, this isn't that big of a deal. Why doesn't everybody already know this? She's like, well, because people don't see it that way. And I have to keep reminding myself that when I see these things, I'm like, well, it's not worth talking about because it's just normal. Well, It's not just normal, but to me, it seems normal. So why is it not normal? And so I think that's the biggest one is that, right? That I have to keep reminding myself that that people aren't looking at it like that, even though I think it's just like, this is not a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's what gets me so excited about you sharing this article, us doing this interview, doing our social media showcase for an entire week. Like any time, and I don't want to sound crass or whatever, but anytime I get to show off Ethon Burns, like, is a good time because what you're noticing and what you're talking about is stuff that, people do need to hear. And it is really important. And people do need to read, and people do need to see, just from, making a couple healthier choices to like really becoming an incredible competitor, in CrossFit or strongman or just getting stronger or improving resilience or whatever the case might be. Right. I think that anything that you're saying on the topic is well worth paying attention to and trying to understand. And the cool part is, like, you're writing, I printed out the article. It's right here in front of me. It's like, it's also just massively entertaining. So like, you've been able to take this like incredible science and this like genius level pattern recognition, but turn it into something that's like easily digestible and fun even to consume. So I don't know. It gets me massively pumped that I get to share Ethon Burns with the world, stuff that I think is highly valuable that you own and is yours and nobody else. I mean, I've not experienced anybody at the level that you're at in terms of this. Right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So let's get into then Living Fit, education, and of course, battle ropes. We got to talk battle ropes.
Yeah,
so obviously there's some patterning that's going on with battle ropes, just in the basic way that the waves turn into frequencies and things like that. But what first attracted you to battle ropes, as a tool that you could use to train somebody?
So what's funny is, I used to train at a CrossFit gym. I don't know if I necessarily should be, naming names or anything like that, but I used to manage a gym, and and at the time, the way that things were patterned, this has been many, many years ago. This would have been in 2012, maybe, or 13, something like that. So it's been a while back.
Yeah.
Battle ropes or battling ropes at the time were not very common at all. And I was just looking for new ways to tax people, right? A new way to move, a new way to actually get people to, and make it interesting as well. Because with, a lot of just kind of standard bilateral movement, and there wasn't a whole lot of much outside of just these barbell movements and maybe some running and, things like this. And so I was just trying to find a way that was entertaining, that was fun, and kept people engaged and made them feel like, or made them not feel like, oh, I should be on a barbell right now. Well, no, let's take a step back and figure out why we shouldn't be on a barbell all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so I bought a set of battle ropes, two pairs, as a matter of fact. And we just started working with them. I was like, this is just crazy hard, A, but B, it's incredibly entertaining. I can move, I can do all these different things, and all of a sudden it just kind of started opening this whole world. And I probably fiddled around with it for, a couple of years before I really started trying to take it a little more seriously and looking up what other people were saying, and kind of checking with some friends of mine who were working with battle ropes and working with some professionals. And then along came Aaron Guyette, and then I met you. You spoke my language, right? I mean, we from the moment that we started talking, you started breaking it down from a scientific standpoint. I was like, oh, this is the stuff that I need to hear, because this is how I can prove not only to myself, but to everybody else, that the battle ropes are viable and actually an adequate tool. And so from there, it's just exploded. My mind was blown, because I could take the patterns and turn them into something that I knew was adequate, right? I could prove it with science that this was doing something, not just wiggling some strings around on the ground or whatever, And it's just gone, gangbusters from there. And now I'm on them almost every day. It doesn't matter if I'm doing a barbell workout, a dumbbell workout, kettlebell workout, whatever. I'm on the ropes at some point, whether it's warm ups, whether it's cool downs, whether it's whatever, whether it's finishers. I hate to say the word finisher with battle ropes, but, but yeah. So
you're forgiven.
Battle ropes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then, let's talk a little bit then about some of the science, because here's the issue, right, with battle ropes right now is they're so new in the fitness industry that people will be like, oh, well, it's not proven, because when people are talking about proven, they're talking about like specific case studies of doing XYZ exercise with these parameters equal, ABC result or whatever the case might be. And so from that standpoint, yes, we can't uphold them, absolutely, scientifically or whatever. However, from a physics standpoint, and from the fact that force load in certain directions, right, in certain volumes, with certain loads that are creating certain power outputs, we know from all of the other tools that they're inevitably going to create some sort of result, this result, that result, whatever. And something that I've noticed in reading a lot of the science literature on battle ropes and battling ropes right now is that there's actually a lot of misuse even in the studies, in the case studies, right? Oh. Where they're using the ropes incorrectly. If you're looking at how to, get the most out of the rope or whatever. So then the results are going to be a little bit askew. And of course, that's going to happen, right? Things are going to circle the drain or kind of hit on the different parts of the target before it can get focused into, okay, what are the most viable ways to use this versatile tool? Because it's so versatile and it's so variable, right? There's so many different variances that can happen. So what's your take on that? And I know that you're trying to work with some different professors and things like that at the University of Iowa. And obviously with the pandemic, it's a little bit different now, but what's your take on it? And what are you kind of looking to create?
So some of the studies that I've seen, they're not super recent, but recently they were trying to prove that, they could increase power output or, whatever through this. And they found out, well, wait, this is interesting because one of them in particular was with the one with the basketball team, right? And they found out, well, their eating percentage increased. Well, that's interesting. Their coordination increased. Also interesting. We weren't expecting that. And I'm not really sure because they didn't talk about how they figured that out specifically. But those are the things that they noticed anecdotally, right? And so I was like, okay, well, what if we could break that down somehow and run some very simple tests to show what the coordination looks like, to show what that power output, what the power output looks like, how we can change that. And then obviously with the weight of the rope and the distance and things like this, using those parameters to actually increase or decrease our power output over the test to kind of show, here's point A, here's point B, here's point C. This is what happened at each point along the way. I think that's important, right? Because now we're showing something that's transcending just, oh, well, they got stronger, or, oh, well, they increased their power output. Okay, well, how did that happen? Was it neurological? Was it just because they started gaining a new coordination, right? Because if coordination increases, then power output's going to increase, and so on and so forth, right? So where along the way did the increases happen, and what was happening along the way? Right? That's actually what I'm looking for. 'Cause I want to prove it. I want to prove that what we see anecdotally every day when someone comes into the gym and they start working with ropes right away, and they're like, oh my God, this is really hard. I can't do this. I can't, hold this isometric position. I can't, I can't get the waves to actually reach the end, whatever that parameter is. And then after a couple of weeks, they can do that. Right. So I see it anecdotally all the time. Okay, well, your strength is increasing because now you can reach the end. Your strength is increasing because you can actually isometrically hold this position longer, right? And things like this. Well, where's the coordination coming in? Because I do know for a fact that their coordination is increasing as they go, because when they first started wiggling the rope and moving around, they were trying to do some lunges while they're doing the ropes. First, they were like, oh my God, I'm falling all over the place. I can't keep my balance. And pretty soon now the rope is reaching the end and they're able to do reverse lunges or, lateral lunges or whatever with the rope. Well, obviously their coordination increased. So, but I can't, other than anecdotally saying everyone that's walked in that works at it improves. But I can't show that, right? I can just tell you that. It would be really awesome, I think, if we could have a couple of like scientists and researchers just follow us around and do measurements and recordings and things like this while we work with all of the different, hundreds to, and at this point, probably into the thousands, right, of people that have, began their journey with the ropes, whether from zero training age, right, sedentary, never really moved, or from like a 8-year training age or something like that. And then watch them improve and, create progressive overload in different power output parameters or whatever. It would be really cool to just get people to record that. So then would be less anecdotal, and we could start to collect all of that data. So where are you at with the progress of this study? Is it basically hit ground zero again because of the quarantine, or is it potentially moving forward in the direction? So I hate to say ground zero because the people that I have that were interested are still interested, right? So it's not like we're starting over because now I don't have to go find those people again. But I mean, nothing's happened, right? Nothing can happen right now, especially with the university being in flux as it is. I mean, because there's even, they're talking about not even having any, and this is being the debate, right? Not having any students on campus next semester, or having some, or do we give a certain percentage of people, or how are we doing? I mean, they may not even allow students on campus at all next semester, or a small percentage of them. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen until kind of all the pandemic stuff gets figured out. So it may be unfortunately a little bit a little bit, but
yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then it was interesting to me because you said originally you were actually trying to talk with physicists.
yes. Right.
And so what would be the purpose of that?
Well, because what I wanted to do was find someone that would actually be meticulous about calculating the movement of the rope, the length of the rope, and kind of like walking through all these equations and trying to figure out the best way to calculate that. And then not just saying, well, because the more data that we have and the more the closer we can get to having something that's really acute to what we're trying to measure, the better off we're going to be. Right. So physicists would be the best place to start because the fact that they would be much more apt on that calculation, and being able to be like, oh, well, this is actually interesting because it's a living, moving, breathing thing, and I get to calculate this and actually have some fun with it. Right. Yeah. And then even double dip and use it as some, university material, or maybe even be able to put it in their own research somehow. I don't know exactly, but yeah. But yeah, and that was my whole thing, was I just wanted to be able to have, no questions unanswered.
Yeah. Okay. And that's amazing because basically in my aha moment was when I encountered wave physics, right? That then just unearthed this whole idea behind, what is the thing that creates, muscular adaptation, soft tissue adaptation, nervous adaptation. It's the physics of, the mechanical physics of our body weight stuff, or sprinting, or pressing a barbell or dumbbell or kettlebell or whatever. And so then once that happened, it was like, everything just sort of opened up and unearthed. And then it was walking through and, okay, if my theory is correct, then it should do this when I apply these parameters for this particular person. And then, whoa, sure enough, that did work. Cool. What if I do it again? What if I do it again? And then all of a sudden you got all this mounting anecdotal evidence, which it makes it less anecdotal, but the unfortunate part is it's still anecdotal because I didn't record, I didn't record meticulously like it sounds like you're going to do. So obviously we could dive into the rabbit hole of that, but I want to get back to this training over 40 as a misnomer. We're still fishing for a good title, and maybe that is a good title, but it's basically, if you train like you're 40, even when you're 20 or a teenager or 60, I guess, right? Then chances are when you hit 40, right? If you start doing year-old, when you hit 40, you're not going to be, a can of smashed assholes, so to speak, excuse my language, right? But you'll actually be a whole lot better. You'll probably be stronger. You'll probably have more mobility. You'll probably, all of these things. And so what are a couple of the gaps maybe that you can fill? Because the article is pretty, it's pretty entertaining, but two, it's very informative. So are there some gaps in it that you could fill in this interview? As I'm writing it, I kept thinking, man, I need to start breaking this up, because this is just way too much information for an article, right? So this needs to be like a multi-part series in some way, so that I can actually get into some of the specifics, right? Because with this, we're just kind of touching on it and saying this, what about this concept? What about that concept? And and they're pretty gross concepts, right? So it's not necessarily that we're getting any specifics. So getting into a little bit of specifics, just enough to get, hopefully get some more of these aha moments by giving a specific example that, someone can relate to and be like, oh, wow, I never really thought of it that way. That's what I'm looking for, right? Is just to get those aha moments for people. Because of the fact that, again, skipping warm-ups and kind of like maybe, or even if you're warm-up, and I was, teasing a little bit with the Monday as bench press day and all that. But, walk in, kind of shake your arms out a little bit. Okay, we're going to throw 45-pound plates on the bar, do a few bench presses. Awesome. I'm ready to rock. I'm warmed up now. Wow. Okay. Hold on. Everything that you just did neurologically just crushed yourself, and now your performance is going to be poor, and you're going to walk out of here and your shoulders are going to be sore for a week, and, yada, yada, yada. So how do we get around that? And so that's step number one, right? Why do the tissues need to be warm? Because the fact that the bursa are need to be heated up, so they'll move around the joint and actually allow the muscle, the bones to move, to articulate in a longer range of movement. We need to warm the muscles up so the muscles will actually be pliable, and I use the word gooey, right?
So the muscles actually be used where they'll allow you to get a fuller range of movement. Let's work on trying to reach some new end range just a little bit to kind of remind the CNS that it's okay to reach that far and those sort of things. Because then if we do have muscular imbalances, and I'm going to make up some numbers here, but I would assume that 99.9% of the people on the planet have muscular imbalances in some way or another, especially people that are athletic.
I haven't observed a single body, and I've observed a lot of bodies without one. So guessing that all of them have them.
I have to assume it. Especially if you've been in sports, right? Because every sport ever, I don't care what sport, even if it's underwater basket weaving, right?
Wait, is that a sport?
I don't know.
Like I've missed my calling.
It should be. But they all create some sort of muscular imbalance, right? Because you're training to do something, and that's the thing that you're training to do. Most people don't even train outside of that, right? So if you're training to be a sprinter, in most cases, you're not going to train anything that's not going to involve sprinting in some way, right? So you're force load in one direction. So you start getting hip tightness, ankle tightness. I mean, there's all kinds of things that are going to happen inside of there. And so this is to come back to that and say, okay, we need to figure out where the muscular imbalances are, where we can move those joints around, get everything more pliable so that, again, you're not broken in some way when you actually go to do that. And some of the more common ones are hips, shoulders, and low back, right? Those are the ones that we see most commonly. Oh, my shoulder, I got this shoulder thing, or my low back thing, I got this, football back thing. And all those are actually created by muscular imbalances in some way or another, right? Even if it's is now a massive injury, at one point it was just a muscular imbalance. So if that's the case, then if we have muscular imbalances now, why don't we fix them before they become another big injury, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the whole thing, right? How do we get the warm-ups to get people to want to warm up, right? Yeah. The meat and potatoes of every workout is kind of the sexy part. That's why everybody wants to get to it, because this is what's building me. This is what's making my pecs bigger, or this is what's making me lose weight, or this is whatever your goal is. This is what's going to make it more effective. And that's not necessarily the case at all. But that's that's the mentality that we've developed. And so the idea is to make warm up sexy again, right? We got to make them sexy again, whatever that is.
Have you heard of the Dan John, the workout is the warm up, or the warm up is the workout?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like and obviously the way he's talking about it, he's just like accruing volume and what is going to create the adaptation and things like that. But unfortunately, that was probably older Dan John or younger Dan John. And it's not exactly anti what you're talking about, but it's understanding what's going to make the change. And I think that's exactly what you're talking to, right? With the training over 40 concept or whatever, what's going to make the change.
Yep, absolutely. And the idea is just becoming more joint friendly, right? Period. Because as we age, we're going to break down. We're all carbon-based life forms, right? We're all going to break down in some way. It's just how life goes. And so but what we can do is either we can be walking towards that end range, or we can be running at it, or we can be dead sprinting at it, or we can be in a race car driving as fast as we possibly can toward it, right? Which do you want to be? Personally, I'd rather be walking towards it. That way I'm not just, dying a quick death. Let's slow this down a little bit. And that's kind of the concept, right? Let's slow it down. Let's make sure that we're big, healthy individuals. And right, you can still be, this big, beefy bodybuilder. You can still be a power lifter. You can still do all those things. But why does it have to be detrimental to your health in some way?
Correct. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that so much. And I think that's a perfect segue, a perfect time to enter the age old, or the question that we ask on every interview, right? Which is, what is living fit to you? So, and obviously you've talked about it a bit. You've written about it extensively. I'm excited. I don't know if you plan on writing more, but man, if you do, I either A, point me to where you are writing it so that I can read it, or B, allow us to showcase the heck out of it, because it's incredible. So, Ethon Burns, what is living fit to you?
I would say that living fit to me is longevity, period. Right. I've been a high-end athlete in my younger days, which is why I can speak from experience to all of that. Right. I've been a high-end athlete. I've been through a lot of injuries. I've tried to work my way back out of injuries. I'm currently still working my way back out of injuries. I mean, if I'm going to be honest about it, I've still got things that exist from there. So living fit to me means that I want longevity, not only for my life, right? Of course, because we can all be selfish in that way, but becoming a parent, and this is going to sound super cheesy, right? But after becoming a parent, everything revolves around my kids. So I want to make sure that I can still move, I can still be healthy, I can still be there for them, whatever that is. If that is running and playing with them in the yard, if that is, running with them to train for their next sprinting meet in high school, whether that's whatever that is, whatever age range that is, whatever it is, I just want to be able to be there. I want to be able to be there and be doing it. And that's important to me. And that has become way more important to me than, looking sexy or whatever, bench pressing 400 pounds at one point. Yeah, I wanted to do that. And now I'm good with where I'm at. And, if I make some gains, that's cool. But overall, I still want to be able to pick my little girl up at the end of the day and hold her up over my head and that sort of thing. So that has become way more important than my bench press goals. Right. So that's
the rad indirect benefit is clearly you look great, right? Like,
thank you.
And I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, because you've done something consistent, you've done something that hasn't been injurious, so you can do it more often, right? Or stay consistent with it at least. And even if it's driving towards this goal of being able to move with your children, right? And have energy, with their energy, it's led to you feel better, I'm sure, and you definitely look better, right? Like if you look at any of your Instagram stuff or whatever. So, I don't know. That's pretty cool to me.
And thank you for the compliments. I don't take compliments very well, ashamedly, I guess. But it's one of those things that when you're young and you're thinking about lifting and you're I don't know, whatever it is, you think that you're attracting more women this way, or, that you're, showing how, alpha male you are, whatever that is. All that kind of stuff just kind of falls away at some point when you realize that all you're doing is breaking yourself for nothing. Right. Because I'm telling you right now that, in all honesty, most women out in the world, most women that are worthwhile are not going to care, how sexy you are, how big your chest is or whatever. Right. It's how awesome of a human being you are, how complete you are, and how healthy you are. Right. If you're looking at it from that a viewpoint, right. If you want to prove how alpha male you are, guess what? When you're 60 and that other dude is in a wheelchair, how cool is it that you're in a wheelchair, man? I'm sorry, but that's not real alpha, right? So it's like, how do you quantify that, right? And so it's simply a change in perspective, right? Because when you're young, you don't think about those things. I mean, half the time you're like, I'm not even going to live past 30. I don't care, whatever. And so a lot of that stuff kind of just falls by the wayside. I don't know. And it's so hard because I don't know I'm not even really sure how to try and share that because I mentor a little bit with some younger people, but I'm not even sure how to I don't think there are words in the English language that will seep in fast enough or hard enough to get them to realize exactly what you're saying until they get there. And then they're like, oh, I remember back when he told me that.
Yeah. It's funny. I've been on, a few podcasts or whatever, and people, ask, hey, what would you tell your younger self? I'm like, it doesn't matter what I would say because I wouldn't listen to it.
That is exactly right. Yep. I guarantee that I wouldn't listen. I'd been like, whatever, old man, you don't know anything.
And, no, you have to listen. I am the older you. Whatever, bro. Cool story. So that's something that I totally forgot in your intro is you were Olympic level athlete in Taekwondo. And so clearly that's an experiential piece that you have, right? And so obviously tons of experience. But then from an education standpoint, constantly pursuing education as well as trying to relay and teach education to your gym, to your clients. That's something that we hold near and dear at Living.Fit. And we know that you do as well. What's the reason behind education for yourself and educating even your clients, right? Even the people that just merely are coming to you for a workout. So
for me, I think that education is paramount. I feel like if I ever get to the point where I feel like I know enough, then I might as well stop, right? I might as well get out of fitness, because everything is changing constantly, everything, right? And new science is presented constantly. We just learn new things. I mean, especially when it comes to psychology, right? The psychology of what's happening in your brain while you're exercising and what's supposed to be happening there. And I mean, the list is endless. I'll just leave it at that. If you're not continuing to educate yourself on what all that is, I mean, you're just not keeping up, right? And so that's huge for me. But the other thing too is finding other coaches that you can take information from. You can take it as this is fact, right? I trust that they're feeding me positive information, and then being able to have communication back and forth with them. And that communication is huge for education. And as a coach or a trainer, or however you want to label yourself as an educator, being able to be educated is huge. And I think that most people don't look at it that way, because leaders still need to be able to be led as well, right? Leaders can't fight being led. Otherwise, you're not a good leader. And the same thing with education, right? If you can't be educated, then you're not a good educator. And so for me, that's the biggest thing is I have to keep educating myself, because it keeps me in that loop and keeps me educated. Right. So there's that. And then on top of that, you know, when I have individuals that come into the gym and they're just looking for a workout, and maybe they don't know what they're getting into when they meet me, I don't know. But we have a tendency to hang on to people for a long time, right? Our turnover is not very high. And a lot of the people that we have are well-educated people. And I think it's just because that when they come in, they realize that when I'm relaying what's happening, I'm telling them what they're supposed to be feeling, how that's supposed to be happening, what our ultimate goal is in that, so they can give me the intention that I need, right? Because if they don't have the intention behind that, then the workout is pointless. At this point, you're just sweating, right? Whatever. And which, by the way, I hate when people tell me, oh, it's a great workout, I sweat a whole bunch. Great. You go stand outside in the summer, you're going to sweat a whole bunch. Does that make it a great workout? No, it doesn't. So what is your problem? Right? So I need a certain intention. I need them to understand what's happening there. And so I educate them on that. I educate them on, why we eat like we do, why we move like we do, why we're doing the warm-ups like this, or the workout is laid out like this. I want you to understand, so that if you weren't at the gym, right, if you were actually having to either come up with your own program, or you're looking to purchase a new program, or whatever that is, you would know enough that you could pick apart what was good and what was bad. Or something like that. And subsequently people stick around forever, right? Because they trust me. They know that I'm educating them. They know that I'm doing my best to make sure that they understand. I think that's also huge.
And it's an endless well, right? Education is a nonstop, like we will never, like if you want to, you will keep learning until the day that you die. And that's the day that you'll stop learning, right? I mean, unless there's eternality and whatever else, but we don't have to get into that. So it's endless. So if you're a leader and you're a coach and you're a teacher, all in the same lens, all in the same place, then as you learn, you will continue to teach the people that are coming to you to learn about their own fitness, their own physical health and mental health, and all of these things that they're getting out of these workouts and these programs and stuff like that. And so it will be nonstop. So to me, it's not surprising that you have such low turnover, or I should say such high retention. Like there's so many. And the thing is, like the people that you're educating, like these are like highly educated, like a lot of them. I've met a few of them, right? I mean, these are like professors at the university level, and they're coming to you and enjoying what they're learning. And sometimes they're just like, hey, I just want to work out. But in order to do the workout properly and to get the adaptation, you're teaching them, what's going on, so that they can, like you said, put in the intention. I just love that, man. I love it.
Perfect. I even had one of speaking of professors and stuff, with all the quarantine, one of the professors that came in, and she's a pharmacy professor, very analytical, and she's one of those kind of no nonsense people. Like she jokes around a little bit, but joking is also not necessarily her cup of tea either. And in the quarantine, she decided that she was going to buy some equipment, and she went because of the fact that what we're doing, she went straight to Kettlebell Kings, ordered a battle rope, had a battle rope delivered to her house. That was more important to her than anything else that she was getting. And she kept saying, I know I'm going to regret having this thing because they're so hard and they're just blah, blah, blah. But I ordered it anyway because you taught me how to use this thing, and now I'm in it to win it. And I was like, that's awesome, right? So yeah. I mean, it couldn't have been any better an anecdote, I guess, to any of that, right? Because we talked about the battle ropes, why it's important. She didn't go try and buy dumbbells, kettlebells, any of that stuff. She went straight to a battle rope. She knew she bought one thing that she could cover her workouts and she could have something that was solid, right? So perfect. I couldn't have been happier.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it's a testament to who you are and a coach, to your clientele, a leader, and a teacher to not only your clientele but your entire staff. And obviously, so if people are around the University of Iowa or in Iowa, where would they go and find you?
So we're actually in Coralville, right? So Iowa City is where the university's at. We're in the town right next to it. They literally touch. You can't tell which one's not. And so we're on the outside of that. We try and stay a little away from the university some, just so we can kind of get out of the hubbub and not be around downtown and all that, because it's kind of crazy. But yeah, in Coralville, Iowa, we're currently in a little space that's kind of off the beaten path a little bit. So that's why we have people have a little trouble finding us, because I don't even know where you're at. Okay, well, it's, remember this place over here and there? Yeah, turn there. Okay. Oh, I found you. Okay, great. So it's that sort of thing. So, but it's Alchemy Strength. We're kind of, by the main mall there, I guess. Yeah, I'm not really sure how else to say it other than that. You can find us on Instagram or any of that. We're on as Alchemy Strength. If you follow hashtag Alchemy Strong, you'll find us, because that's been the hashtag we put everything on. And then of course our website, which is alchemystrong.com.
Yeah. And so, and I just want to hopefully break down, any potential barriers or obstacles. So yeah, at Ethon Burns, at Alchemy Strength, right, on Instagram. And so if you're into either Ethon's genius in patterning, if you want to find out some deep dive or a high level understanding of programming, that is something that I continue to learn from you, Ethon, and I know people can reach out to you there for that as well. If you're just looking for like really good workouts, really good programs to apply, or if you want to hear some really good drumming, then you got to hit up Ethon Burns. No, this has been incredible. So yeah, so I'll make sure at the end of the article that we link to you, as well as at the end of the interview that we link to you. I think anybody would be doing themselves a disservice not to tap the amount of education and the amount of experience that you have, from, like I said, Olympic level competition. To even like creating something that we didn't even talk about is like creating like winning competitors in CrossFit, but not following the varied CrossFit model, but following a proper programming. And probably the Train Like You're 40, the article that's in front of me, right? Like doing it with intentionality. And so, yeah, it's a great honor to be able to talk with you, Ethon. And I hope that this drives many people to mentorship or at least becoming a student of the stuff that you're putting out, because it's incredible.
Thank you.
All right. Well, without further ado, make your next one your best one. Again, at Ethon Burns, at Alchemy Strength. Check them out on Instagram. Check them out at alchemystrong.com. And if you're in Iowa, swing by. You won't regret it.
Hey, for more interviews like that, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you're looking for not only those interviews, but follow along programs, exercise breakdowns, workouts, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for your fitness results, make sure you hop on to living.fit, become a member today, and I'll see you on the next one.